Welcome to another episode of the TKA Brigade. I am your host, TK, along with my good friend, Mr. Chris.
What's up?
There we go. I told you, people, he's a little mic shy, so I think as we get into these episodes, he'll get a little better and a little looser. Maybe I give him a shot of Jack or something. I don't know. Maybe some Frangelica or some, what do you like? What do you like to shoot?
I'm heroin. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow.
I'm used to talking smack to kids on video games. That's about all.
Okay, so...
And
you're not used to
I like whiskey.
Okay. Yeah, peanut butter whiskey. That's right. Oh, have mercy. Man, when our friendship started, man, we weren't really drinking. That wasn't really our thing. I think that we saw enough of that with our uncles and dads and brothers and everybody else that I think we kind of steered away from that. Yeah. So last week we left off. We were getting into the Lake Loveland house. For those that listening remember the Lake Loveland house right across the street from Lake Loveland on Taft. It was that duplex. Wonderful place to live.
Remember, if the place was no more than wonderful.
Oh, man. So many things happened. So we're right in the midst of party season. I believe... I had officially dropped out of high school and was just pretty much selling weed and working full time and really just didn't care about life because I felt like the world owed me something. And so we were partying every night and we had all kinds of people over to the house all the time. We had people from Fort Collins that would drive down. I think I had mentioned Sean Caston earlier last episode. Randy Cole or Baby C would come over frequently. Justin Romerine, our good friend, Jay Morrison, Mr. Jim Morrison, and his sister would come over and hang out.
I do miss them.
Man, that was some times. And so we're in the latter part of '96 in this story here. We were partying almost every night. Chris was working at Dominic's Pizza in Milliken, I believe, or Johnstown.
Yeah, it was in Johnstown.
And I was working at Perkins, and I was working at Arby's, and I was working the streets. And yeah, I was pretty much just trying to do whatever I could to make money. But we were really just hanging out. And again, we were meeting so many different people. I remember one night Janelle brought home this new friend that she had made at school. Her name was Amanda. Do you remember Amanda?
Commanda? Yeah, I do.
Yeah, what do you remember about her? Tell me a little bit about your memory of
Well, I could tell you the first time I met her.
Okay, go ahead.
Should have set off a red flag immediately.
Immediately, but I don't think it did.
No, it didn't.
Yeah, I don't think it
and
did.
that's because I was dumb and young and
I was dumb.
not thinking correctly. Commanda, wow. Yeah, so we all hung out. I don't remember what we all did, but I'm sure there was food involved and liquor and weed and a good time, I'm sure, and cigarettes. And first time I met her that night, I was the only person that ever had a car. My parents were very good to me growing up. Made sure I had a car at a young age. But anyways, yeah, she needed a ride home. Nobody wanted to give her a ride home. And I'm 99% certain Troy could have given her a ride home, but he didn't. He sent her to me.
He didn't want to. Yeah, he didn't. He definitely did not want to.
And I was propositioned. Should I say or no?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was propositioned with favors in the zipper region.
The zipper region. So what you're telling me is you were not going to be the good Samaritan and give this girl, this young, innocent bystander, a ride home. You required payment. And so her offer of payment was of the party favor. Or was it
was
a different kind of favor?
No, it was, I don't know how to explain it to keep it kind of clean. I think everybody knows where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I think so too. Lollipop.
Now, be ready to be shocked.
Okay, I'm listening.
That is not something I wanted. Believe it or not. I wanted gas money.
Right,
I wanted
that was
cash.
Yeah, because what she was offering wasn't going to get you home that night. It was just going to It might have made you happy.
I mean,
for
it'll
a
get me
couple of
home,
minutes, but
right.
but not that kind of home, right?
Correct.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Right. Yes, I agree. So here we are. We're meeting new people. We meet this girl. Her name is Amanda. She was referred to with a not the best nickname. I don't remember if you had already said it, but I don't really remember the nickname. Do you?
Commanda.
Oh, have mercy. Oh, mercy. Now, what's crazy about this is that, and some of you that know Chris and know back in the day, Chris was somewhat of a ladies' man. And I say that with all due respect.
Was.
The fact that girls, yes, well, was is the primitive word. But what I mean is that he had a natural way with the female species in a respectful way. I never thought of you as somebody who was disrespectful. You were always respectful. You always had that like Playboy mentality where, you were cool, calm, and collected, and girls were like, oh, it's Doe. They loved you, and yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, it was flattering.
Oh, I know. You stole a couple of female quarters that I was courting at the time, but that's okay. So anyways, so here's the time where we're 96, 97, we're partying. I believe you started to date her after a couple of times of hanging out. Like,
I was gonna leave that out, but yeah, I did date her for I don't know, a year.
Oh no,
I dated her for quite of a long time actually. Funny story, she reached out to me 8 months, a year ago. Just to say hi and see how I was doing. Told me I had a beautiful family, and I went, obviously I had to go look at her Facebook to see about her, and yeah, she got a beautiful family too, married and everything. So I mean, it's cool. It all worked out. But yeah, I did date her for a long time. We had a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, movies and popcorn.
But it just didn't work out. Not my type.
Well, we all have a type, and she definitely was not your type. And so here we are, 96, 97, you were working at Dominic's. I was working at various places. We were partying, we were hanging out. We met different people. Amanda, I believe this is when Janelle brought Danielle and Christina around. Was that right around that time, like after?
That is roughly there, yes.
Okay, so you were dating her. We were hanging out. We were doing so. We get into the springtime, and I remember my mom was working at Walmart, and she had gotten injured, and so the possibility of having to move out of this lakefront duplex was imminent. So I figured, you know what? I'm 17 years old. It's time that I move on. So I had friended a couple of people earlier in the year that I worked with at Perkins. One of the guys that I worked with was actually living in Fort Collins in a house, like a big 4-bedroom house. And he reached out to me one night and said, hey, Trav, I got this extra room in the house. It's like $275 a month for rent. It covers everything, including utilities. Well, do you want to move up here? And I was like, oh, absolutely. So March of 1997, I packed up my things and I moved to Fort Collins into the Camelot house. Now, that for some people, and I guarantee you that some people that listen to this will remember that house vividly. I don't think you have a lot of good memories of that house, or at least any memories.
Very, very few. I know that I went there a few times and partied with people, Sean and Brandon, Hannah.
Oh, have mercy, Brandon, Hannah.
And, all those guys and the Benavides boys and stuff. That's where a lot of people got met too, though. At that same house. I was in a bad car accident many years ago, and I think that took some of my memory away. Because some of the stuff I should actually 100% remember. I just don't. But once you start talking about it, I start to remember it. So it's helpful to me.
So now the crazy thing about that house was literally lived there for 3 weeks and 6 days. And every night, for 28 days, I should say. So 3 weeks with 21, 6, 21, 29. So literally 22 of the 28 days I lived in that house was a party. And we had so many different people come from different schools, different high schools. We had some college kids come party at that house. I remember one specific night we had a huge rager. In fact, I was off getting weed. I'll never forget this. With a mutual friend, LaDonna, LD, had taken me because I didn't have a car at the time. She took me over to a friend's to get some weed, and I remember coming back, and there was probably 300 people in this house. Now, it was a good-sized house. However, 300 people in any house that is not normal. And I remember walking in, and there were people on every step going up the stairs, and there were people on every step going down. And someone in the house is yelling, "Who has the tap for the keg?" 300 people, and there's a pony keg with no tap. Oh man, I'll tell you what, that was a rough night. We had to end up kicking people out. But what else happened that night was that our good friend, Mr. Bryce Thompson, aka Bob Wiley, drank a fifth of wild turkey. Ended up in the bathtub, passed out. Everybody thought he was just passed out, but in hindsight, and I'm really glad that somebody took the initiative to check on him, but he had gone into almost a comatose state and was on the verge of death because he had drank so much that he was starting to, his body was processing the liquor too slow, and it was going to cause alcohol poisoning. And so he had parked his car over at Ken Keener's house, right up the street by, what was that grocery store? Toddy's. You remember Toddy's?
I do. Toddy's,
Yes.
and the grinder
Toddy's.
place, all that stuff was
Oh,
over
the
there.
grinder, the sandwich grinder. Oh my gosh.
Mancino's.
So, yes, man, you see, your memory's not completely gone, bro. That was the joint. So I remember going, so it's 97, living in Camelot, partying every night. We're probably 2.5 weeks into the month of 1997. We have this huge rager. Our friend Bryce gets hammered drunk. The cops actually showed up that night, and this is a funny story, which I'll caveat to a later on story down the road. But cops show up, give me and Randy Baby C a ticket for noise ordinance ticket. That morning, Bryce is still passed out, and his car was over at Ken's house. So I walked over to Ken's, got the car. As I'm getting ready to leave Ken's apartment, which was Ken's first apartment, which we'll talk about here in a couple of minutes, Bryce's dad and little brother show up, literally like pull an FBI move, and they whip up in front of the car, and they jump out, and they come over and start cussing and swearing at me, wondering where Bryce is at. And I put my hands up and I said, "He's at the house. He's passed out drunk." They said, "Take us there." We went there. They found out he was passed out in the bathtub. They drug him out of the bathtub and threw him in the car, and his dad threatened me and told me if anything happened to Bryce, it was going to be on me. Thankfully, later that day, when Bryce came to and sobered up and told his dad that I had nothing to do with his binge drinking, that it was all him, his dad apologized, and ended up we were friends still after that. Like, I wasn't banned from talking to him. But
He did binge drink a lot.
all the time. Like Bob Wiley. Do you remember? Okay, so taking it back to the very beginning, because I don't think we ever brought this person up, but there was a cat that when I first met you, we hung out with this guy all the time for quite a while in the beginning. And this cat used to go to the liquor store and get mad.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I called him like a year ago and talked.
Tell me.
Talking
bro.
about
Who was it?
JJ.
JJ, Justin Johnson, man. Have mercy. That cat, he used to get big gulp cups, and
He drank a 6-pack before we went to school.
And but do you remember he would get slushies and put Match on
Yes.
2020 in the slushie, and we would drive around, man. And he was such a laid back kind of guy.
Super laid back.
He was such a just chill and loved to smoke weed, and well, he loved to smoke anything and pretty much do any kind of drug.
Yeah.
But anyways, that just a little caveat. So Bryce loved to drink, loved to binge drink, and so here we are, 97. Lived in this house on Camelot for 3 weeks and 6 days. 3 weeks, 6 days. The owner of the house, which was this very wealthy woman who lived in Texas, showed up at the end of the month. Comes into the house. We have no idea who she is. She's dressed to the nines. She's like pulled up in a Mercedes S-Class, right? Gets out, comes inside and says, "Who are you?" And we're like, "Oh, we live here. Who are you?" And she's like, "This is my house." We're like, "No, this is blah, blah, blah's house." And it was just some random person that we thought. What we didn't know was that this was the landlord, and she had a lease with 3 of the 4 people that were currently living in the home. But she didn't know that the other 6 of us, because 3 of the 4 people had moved out, and then 6 people had moved in, so it ended up being like 7 or 8 people living in this house. She comes in, she's like, I don't know who you are. Why are you in my home? You've destroyed my home. You have a week to get out of my house, or I'm going to file a lawsuit against you. It was this big debacle. I'm getting ready to be homeless. You're living in Milliken with your mom and dad and your little brother. Working at Dominic's. Yeah. We're back and forth between Milliken and Fort Collins. Ken Keener is in the picture, and he has his own apartment, and him and I were starting to hang out. And so as I'm getting ready to be homeless, he says to me one night, Trav, why don't you just come move in with me? We can split the rent, and you can, share the living room area, and then we'll get a 2-bedroom apartment together, and you can have your own room. What do you think about that? And I remember thinking, man, I don't have anywhere else to go. And I mean, shoot, why not? So I remember one night towards the end of that month, I packed all my things and I went and moved in with Ken. What do you remember, if anything, about Ken Keener's single room apartment?
There's a couch, brown, furry couch. Didn't he moved out of his original apartment though? Didn't he?
That was when he moved to Colorado from California, that was his first apartment.
And then didn't you guys agree to move into a 2-bedroom though?
We did. So that was after living in that apartment for like 3 months.
Okay.
Or 2 months. It wasn't 3 months. I'm sorry. It was like 2 months. It was like 2 months. And then we moved over to a brand new apartment.
Yes.
That was a 2-bedroom off of Harmony and Timberline.
Yes, I do remember that. I don't. What I can tell you, I'm pretty sure happened was a lot of partying at that house, a lot of people sleeping where they should, and your car.
Which car? The Caddy, the '77 DeVille.
I will never forget when you got that.
That's funny because, so we're talking about Ken Keener, end of March '97, TK and Doughboy, our life story, TK's A Brigade. And we are talking about when Ken Keener, when we first met Ken at his apartment. This was one of the first times. The first night we went over there, it was you and I and Audrey and LaDonna.
Oh,
and Ken invited us over. We show up and we knock on the door, and Audrey was never patient. So she goes busting into his apartment because I think she personally had a thing for him. So she was, excited.
She absolutely.
Yeah. Do you remember what he was doing that first night?
Besides mountains of coke,
No. Oh, there was something specific. Remember, because he knew
he was cleaning. He was
cleaning.
He was vacuuming his house.
Are you sure?
I think.
That wasn't the first time.
Okay.
So the first time we went over there was you. It was actually you and I.
I'm alone.
Well, it's something that it's something that we all typically do alone, but it wasn't sexual. But okay, so I'll just remind you. So it was actually you and I and Bryce and LaDonna and Audrey. It was 5 of us. We go over to Ken's house. Audrey goes and busts in the door, and we're like, Ken, where are you? He's like, I'm in the shower. I'll be out in a few minutes. So we're all sitting in his living room, and he starts singing a song while he's in the shower. Yes, put it in my... Yes.
I do remember that.
And we're sitting there, and we had just met this guy probably a couple of months prior to this. Nobody really knew him. Nobody really knew anything about him. And this guy is singing this absolutely crazy, like weird, awkward song in the shower. Little did we know that was Ken's personality. Right? I mean, the guy he was all about trying to get the shock value out of every situation. So we're partying at Ken's, right?
Yep.
And we're getting 40s every night. I think he had a weight bench in his living room.
Yes, he
did. And so we're partying every night. We're just hanging out. We're doing all kinds of fun stuff. And I remember, So we get into the summertime, and as we're getting into the summertime, we moved from that apartment by Tottie's over to the apartment over on Harmony and Shields is what it was. Harmony and Shields, yeah. You and I had gotten a job at Wendy's.
Oh boy.
And we were working the graveyard shift. Do you remember working the graveyard shift at Wendy's?
Yes, I do.
Tell me a little bit about that. I want to hear a little. I want to hear a little bit from Doug because I've been talking a lot here. So I'm going to let you talk and tell me about that.
So Wendy's. So what I remember about working at Wendy's is it sucked. But nightly, wasting chicken nuggets on purpose to eat them. I mean, it was absolutely fun, but it was a shitty place to work. It was fun because of the people there, except for one person. There's one person that worked there. He had a thing for me, and I have nothing against people's sexual orientation, if that's the word.
Yes, that's how he labeled himself.
But this man wanted me more than I wanted myself. It made me uncomfortable. And do you remember what he said?
Oh, to this day, I could quote it.
Referring to heartbeats and lower extremities.
Yeah, he had a song for it.
Robbing. Yeah, I didn't know how far you wanted to go with that.
We'll keep it PG for the little people. So anyways.
But, I mean, it was cool because, our friends came to the drive-thru all the time. People come through the driveway and show things to get free food. So it was cool.
And, I mean, they would show things. They would offer drugs. People really didn't have any shame at all.
That lasted for, 2.5, 3 months, that job?
Yeah, not long. Yeah, I was uncomfortable working there. Yeah, it was awkward, to say the least.
So Ken and I were living in an apartment over off of Shields and Harmony. It was a brand new apartment complex. In fact, they weren't even done building some of the buildings around us when we had moved in. So, I mean, literally brand new. That was right around the May. So March, April, May, towards the end of May, Ken decided he was going to go back to California for a month. Do you remember that?
I sure do.
Do you remember what he came back with?
I sure do. That was when we were living in LaPorte.
We hadn't moved out to LaPorte quite yet.
Oh, it was shortly after he got back. Actually, no, he went back again. Yeah, so he came back with his car.
Right. Do you remember the car?
Yes, it was a '96 Honda Accord 4-door green, but it wasn't.
Yes.
But it wasn't done. Nothing was done to it. It was completely.
He still had to do work to it.
So yeah, because he had come back with that, and we were like, "Oh my gosh, you look so lame. That car's so boring." So he goes back to California, I think, to visit his parents and finish up on his accident settlement, I believe.
Yeah, his second accident settlement, correct.
Yeah, by that time we had already me, you, I believe Troy, Josh, Janelle, of course, your mother. I think that's it. We had signed up on that house in LaPorte by Vern's.
Not yet.
Not yet.
No,
we're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
No, we'll get there. I promise you. But we weren't there. We weren't to LaPorte yet.
I swear,
we're still living on.
But I'm pretty sure when he got back from California the second time, his car was built and we were at that house.
He was, but so the time frame. So I'll enlighten you on the time frame.
Okay.
Because see, so that was the May when he got back the first time. He got really upset with me because he just felt that I wasn't carrying my weight, which I was, but that's here nor there. But he really wanted Jethro and a couple of Jethro's friends to move in. And so he decided he was going to kick me out of the apartment. And so I didn't have a place to go. And you said, you know what? You should come and move in with me and my mom and dad and my little brother in Milliken. And so we talked to your mom, and your mom said, sure, this is what, rent is going to be. It covers everything. And so June of 97, I packed up all my things and I moved out to Milliken.
Old Milliken house.
Do you remember that on North Normal? I know you do.
Oh, yeah.
You lived there for
I remember the phone number. I remember everything.
Oh my gosh.
I remember your uncle doing the basement finish on that place. Yeah. I remember that whole house.
Oh, I have mercy. The Milliken house.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was good times, man. So the summer of 97, I moved out to Milliken. We were going camping like every weekend, every chance we got. We were up in the mountains, hanging out. You, me, Vinoy, and then everyone else that we kind of connected with. There were parties. We would go to the Benavides parties over off of Plum in Fort Collins, over by CSU.
By Chadwick's house.
Fights.
Chadley's house.
Yep. Chadley, dude. Oh my gosh. And we're partying with the instigators over off of Garfield, and we're riding around in Bryce's Saturn in his 15s. And it was an amazing summer that year. I just remember it being such a good summer because we were having so much fun, and life just seemed to be just cruising along. We get to the end of summer. I remember I was working at Perkins in Greeley, and it was getting to a point where it was really hard to get around anywhere that I wanted to go because a lot of the people I knew were in Fort Collins. And so I remember towards the end of September, I talked to my mom, and she was living in the LaPorte and Swallow house. Do you remember that house? Apartment?
Yes, I do. Very, very vaguely, but I do.
So at that time, it was just, I needed to get closer to the people that I was around all the time. So I decided to move out of your parents' house and back to Fort Collins. So I think we should save that story moving forward, because that's when we lived there for a while. And then in January of 98 is when we moved into the Port House.
Oh,
So I think
boy.
we should
Definitely wait until the next episode.
That's fair.
Because a lot of stuff happened in that house.
That's a big topic.
Big topic, lots to talk about. So we will wait until next episode, and we will pick up from there. You are listening to the TKA Brigade. I'm TK with my boy Doe.
Signing off. See you next time.
Yes, definitely tune in next time. Like I said, go find us on Anchor, Google, Spotify. Like, subscribe, and share. You never know, you might actually be on an episode with us. This is the TKA Brigade. Again, I'm your host, TK. So until next time, people, peace.